Ask any sales rep in any industrial equipment company who their competitor is on a deal, and they'll rattle off the same three names without even thinking. The same three companies, the ones that do the same thing as them in the industry. And you can go and look at those three companies' websites, and my guess is you won't be able to tell them apart. They make the same claims. They've often got the same stock photos of a smiling operator in a hard hat, the same industry-leading language that means nothing. But here's what almost none of them will say: the status quo. Stacked capital priorities. A department that just doesn't want this project. A buyer on the committee who's quietly rooting for you to lose. That's the competition that actually kills complex deals, and most sales organizations aren't even trained to see it. I'm Ed Marsh, and I work with middle market industrial and manufacturing companies, often private equity-owned portfolio companies or family-owned businesses. This is the kind of thing that I work with clients on. So back to the status quo. The status quo is an easy win. It could be busy, it could be cognitive overload, too many priorities, foggy strategic priorities, competing internal departments. And the bottom line is the status quo is a cheap solution. It's free. There's no budget approval, no change management, no risk of picking wrong. You're not just selling against a competitor's spec sheet, you're selling against inertia. And inertia has zero cost. The research is clear. The outcomes for the person that makes a bold choice are asymmetric. If they make a good one, they're doing their job. If they make a bad one that doesn't go smoothly, there's suddenly the excuse for everyone else's problems. Then there's capital. Every plant has a list of projects competing for the same pool of money. Your automation upgrade might be technically superior to anything the competition offers, but that doesn't matter if the CFO just approved a roof replacement or an ERP migration this quarter. You're not just competing for a decision, you're competing for a budget line against projects that have nothing to do with your category. And my guess is nobody on your sales team is tracking that. They're probably tracking win rate against the same three logos. Then there's departmental hesitation, and IT is a classic example. If your solution touches the network, now IT has a vote. And the reality is IT's incentives are almost never aligned with you or with the operator that wants to buy your solution. IT wants fewer integration points, less attack surface, less to support. So it's easy to get frustrated, but that's their job. They're not evaluating your ROI. They're evaluating their own risk. But if your rep hasn't mapped that dynamic, they'll get blindsided well into the project by a security review that nobody mentioned in week one. And then here's the one that gets buried entirely. Somewhere on that buying committee is a person who wants your deal to fail. Not because your product is bad, but because their pet project needs the same resources, the same executive attention, the same slice of this year's capital budget. If your project wins, theirs doesn't get funded. So that person isn't going to stand up in the room and say, I'm against this because it competes with my initiative. Instead, they're going to raise process objections. They'll slow walk their responses. They'll ask for one more round of technical validation. They're going to be exactly cooperative enough that you never identify them as the reason the deal stalls. So this is what real qualification frameworks are actually built to catch. And it's exactly where most industrial sales teams are weakest. They can tell you the competitor's price point, but they can't tell you who on the buying committee benefits if the project dies. And this is not a training problem that you simply fix with a one-day workshop. It's a discipline and skill problem. The same rigor that you demand on the shop floor, where nobody's going to accept an answer like, I think we're running around 90% OEE, has to show up in how your deals get qualified. Nobody runs a plant on guesses about downtime, but almost every company I talk to runs their entire pipeline on guesses about why deals actually stall. If you're a sponsor or a CEO looking at a stall pipeline, don't just ask your sales leader who the typical competitors are. Ask them to specifically name the status quo, the cost of inaction in dollars. Ask them which of their reps can do it. Ask them who else or what else is competing for that capital this year. Ask them who in the IT or operations or finance department at your prospects has a reason to slow this down, and how the reps are ascertaining that and working around it. And ask your sales leaders directly whether anyone on your prospects buying committees has a competing initiative riding on the same budget. My guess is they haven't asked their reps, and my guess is they won't be able to answer. So better yet, build a simple AI skill to review sales call recordings to evaluate for this very simple signal. What percent of questions that reps ask are quantitative versus qualitative? That's a simple tell. Consultative sales can win over the status quo, but great consultative sales requires deep conversation. The kind of conversation that never develops with an interrogation of quantitative questions. The companies that win complex industrial sales aren't the ones necessarily with the best product comparison chart. They're the ones whose reps have mapped every force working against the deal, not just the 3 traditional logos that you might find in the buyer's comparison matrix. That's the premise of quality of sales. And it's the difference between a pipeline that you're comfortable defending to the board and commercial lenders versus a pipeline that's a story you tell yourself in the forecast call. I'm Ed Marsh. If this resonates with you, please drop a comment below. I read and respond to all of them. And by all means, please subscribe to this channel.